He ruled the underworld with an iron fist. She disappeared without a word, carrying the only thing that could destroy him: his blood. 5 years of silence, one night that changes everything. Because some secrets don't stay buried. They grow up and come home. The twin secret: when the past walks in holding your future. Subscribe now. You won't believe what happens next. He didn't believe in ghosts. Until the night she walked into his engagement party like a memory he'd tried to bury for 5 years. Kang Min-ho stood at the center of the grand ballroom, champagne glass in hand. His fiancée's arm looped elegantly through his. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto marble floors. Politicians laughed too loudly. Business partners bowed just low enough. Everyone knew his name. Everyone feared it. The king of Seoul's underworld, 32 years old, untouchable, engaged to the daughter of a rival family. A merger, not a marriage. A crown, not a choice. He'd perfected the art of presence without feeling. Of smiling without meaning it. Of living without ever truly being alive. And then the doors opened. She stepped inside. Not alone. Amara. His breath caught somewhere between his ribs and his throat. The room blurred. Voices faded into static. His fiancée was speaking beside him, but he couldn't hear a word, because all he could see was her. 5 years. She looked different. Stronger. Her dark skin glowed against the cold white of the ballroom. Her natural hair framed her face like a crown she'd earned, not inherited. She wore a simple black dress. Nothing like the glittering gowns around her. But she didn't need diamonds to command attention. She had something far more dangerous. Truth. And she wasn't alone. 2 small girls stood on either side of her, their tiny hands gripping hers. They couldn't have been more than 5 years old. One wore a soft pink dress. The other, lavender. Their hair was braided with delicate care. Their wide eyes scanned the room with the kind of curiosity that only children possess. Minho's heart stopped. Because those eyes were his. Dark, sharp, unmistakable. The same eyes that stared back at him every morning in the mirror. The same eyes his father had. The same eyes that carried the weight of blood and legacy and violence. He saw himself in them. Twice. His hand tightened around the champagne glass. The crystal groaned under the pressure, threatening to shatter. His bodyguard, stationed 3 feet away, noticed the shift. A silent signal passed between them. Stay close. Watch everything. Amara didn't look at him right away. She moved through the crowd slowly, gracefully, as if she hadn't just walked into the lion's den. As if she didn't know every man in this room would kill for him. As if she hadn't vanished from his life without explanation, without goodbye, without giving him the chance to choose. The twins stayed close to her, their small hands never letting go. Minho's fiancée, Yuna, tilted her head, following his gaze. Her smile was practiced, perfect, and utterly fake. "Do you know her?" Yuna asked lightly. He didn't answer, because he didn't know how. Yes, he wanted to say. She was the only woman I ever loved before I learned to stop feeling. No, he wanted to lie. She's no one. A stranger, a ghost. But neither felt true. Amara finally looked at him. Across the room, through the crowd, past the champagne and the lies and the performance of power. Their eyes met, and the world stopped. She didn't smile, didn't flinch, didn't cry. She just stood there, holding the hands of 2 little girls who had his face. Minho felt something crack inside his chest, something he thought he'd buried years ago. Something that felt dangerously close to fear. Not the kind of fear that came from enemies or betrayal or bullets. The kind that came from realizing you'd lost something you didn't know you needed. One of the twins, the one in pink, whispered something to Amara. She knelt down, smoothing the child's braids, whispering back. The little girl nodded, then turned to look directly at Minho. She waved. A small, innocent wave. Like she didn't know she was waving at the most dangerous man in the city. Like she didn't know he could end lives with a single word. Like she didn't know she was waving at her father. Minho's throat went dry. Yuna's voice cut through the haze. "Minho? Are you listening?" He blinked, turned, forced his face back into the mask he wore so well. "Excuse me," he said quietly. "Where are you?" But he was already moving. Through the crowd, past the fake smiles and expensive suits and champagne toasts. His bodyguards followed at a distance, shadows trained to kill on command. Amara saw him coming. She didn't run. She stood still, her hands resting protectively on the twins' shoulders. Her chin lifted slightly. Not defiant, just present, unafraid. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough to see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. Close enough to notice the faint scar on her collarbone, one he remembered tracing with his fingertips years ago. Close enough to hear the twins' soft breathing. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The ballroom buzzed around them, oblivious. Laughter, music, the clinking of glasses, a performance of normalcy in a world built on blood. But here, in this small circle of space, there was only silence, and 2 little girls who didn't know they were standing at the center of an earthquake. Minho's voice came out quieter than he expected. "Amara." She didn't flinch at her name. "Minho." Her voice was steady, calm, like she'd prepared for this moment 1,000 times. His eyes dropped to the twins. They stared up at him with wide, curious eyes. The one in lavender tilted her head, studying him the way children do, without judgment, without fear, just wondering. "Who are you?" she asked softly. The question hit him harder than any bullet ever had. Amara's jaw tightened. She gently squeezed the girl's shoulder. "This is someone Mommy used to know," she said carefully. Used to know. Past tense, like he was history. A chapter she'd closed. Minho's gaze lifted back to Amara. His voice dropped lower, edged with something dangerous. "We need to talk." "I know. Now. Not here." "Then where?" She glanced at the twins, then back at him. Her eyes held something he couldn't quite name. Regret? Resolve? Protection? "Tomorrow," she said quietly. "Alone. You disappeared for 5 years," he said, his voice barely controlled. "You don't get to set the terms. I do when they're involved." She looked down at the girls, her expression softening. "They don't know who you are, Minho. And I need to keep it that way until I'm sure." "Sure of what?" She met his eyes again. "That you won't destroy them the way this world destroyed you." The words landed like a blade between his ribs. He wanted to argue, to demand answers, to tear apart the 5 years of silence and find out why she left, why she never told him, why she thought she had the right to keep his children from him. But he couldn't, because deep down, he knew she was right. This world had destroyed him, and he didn't know if he had anything left inside worth giving to them. Amara took a small card from her purse and pressed it into his hand. Her fingers brushed his palm for just a second, a touch that felt like memory and warning all at once. "Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Come alone." Then she turned, gently guiding the twins toward the exit. Minho stood frozen, the card burning in his hand, watching the only thing that had ever mattered to him walk away. Again. Behind him, Yuna's heels clicked closer. "Who was that?" she asked, her tone sharper now. Minho didn't answer. He just stared at the door where Amara and the twins had disappeared. And for the first time in 5 years, the king of the underworld felt powerless. Minho didn't sleep. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse. The city sprawled below him like a kingdom he'd bled to build. Neon lights flickered. Traffic hummed. Somewhere out there, people lived normal lives, went to work, kissed their children goodnight, believed in things like safety and tomorrow. He'd stopped believing in tomorrow a long time ago. But tonight, he couldn't stop thinking about it. Because tomorrow, he would see her again. And them, his daughters. The word felt foreign in his mind. Dangerous. Like a weapon he didn't know how to hold. He'd killed men. Buried secrets. built an empire on fear and silence. But fatherhood? That was a war he'd never trained for. His phone buzzed on the glass table behind him. He ignored it. Yuna had called 17 times since the party. His second-in-command had sent 14 messages. The family wanted answers. His fiancée wanted explanations. He had none to give. Because how could he explain that his entire world had shifted the moment 2 little girls waved at him? The card Amara had given him sat on the table, its edges sharp and white against the dark surface. Café Noir. 3 p.m. Come alone. He picked it up, running his thumb over the embossed letters. She'd always loved that place. A small, quiet cafe tucked between bookstores and art galleries. The kind of place where people talked about dreams instead of deals, where the world felt softer. It was the last place anyone would look for him. Smart. She'd always been smart. Smarter than him in all the ways that mattered. He'd loved her for that once. For the way she saw through his armor. For the way she made him feel human when the rest of the world saw him as a monster. And then she was gone. No note. No explanation. Just gone. He'd searched for her. Burned through every contact, every favor, every thread of power he had. But Amara had vanished like smoke. Like she'd never existed at all. He'd told himself he didn't care. That she was weak for leaving. That he was better off alone. But he'd kept her photo. Hidden in a drawer he never opened. A reminder that once, just once, someone had looked at him and seen something worth saving. Now she was back. With 2 pieces of him he didn't know existed. His chest tightened. He thought of the way the twin in pink had waved. Innocent. Trusting. Unaware that the man she was waving at had blood on his hands that would never wash clean. They don't know who you are. Amara's words echoed in his mind. And for the first time in years, Minho wasn't sure if that was mercy or cruelty. The next day, he left his guards behind. It was reckless. Stupid, even. A man like him didn't move through the city unprotected. Enemies lingered in every shadow. Rivals waited for moments of weakness. But he couldn't bring his world into hers. Not yet. He arrived at Café Noir 10 minutes early. Dressed in black jeans and a simple coat. No tailored suits. No visible power. Just a man trying to blend into a life he'd never lived. The cafe was warm. Soft jazz played from invisible speakers. The scent of coffee and cinnamon hung in the air. A few customers sat scattered at tables, lost in books or quiet conversations. It felt like another planet. Amara was already there, already. She sat in the back corner, her hands wrapped around a ceramic mug. She wore a cream sweater and jeans. Her hair was pulled back in a low bun. She looked peaceful, like she belonged here, like she'd built a life far away from his chaos. She saw him, didn't wave, just waited. Minho walked over slowly, his heartbeat louder than the music. He sat down across from her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. She took a sip of her coffee. He didn't order anything. "You came alone," she said finally. "You asked me to. I wasn't sure you would. I don't break my word, Amara." She looked at him then. Really looked. Her eyes searched his face like she was trying to find the man she used to know beneath the armor. "You look tired," she said softly. "I didn't sleep." "Neither did I." Silence again. Minho leaned forward, his voice low. "Are they mine?" Amara didn't hesitate. "Yes." The word hit him like a punch. He exhaled slowly, his hands clenching into fists on the table. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was afraid. Of me, of what you'd become." Her voice didn't waver, didn't accuse. It was just honest. Minho's jaw tightened. "I deserved to know." "I know." "Then why—" "Because the night I found out I was pregnant," she interrupted, her voice calm but firm. "You came home covered in someone else's blood." The air between them went cold. Minho stared at her. She held his gaze. "You didn't say a word," she continued quietly. "You just walked past me, showered, changed. And then you told me you had a meeting, like it was nothing, like death was just another Tuesday. He remembered that night. A betrayal within his organization, a message that needed sending. He'd handled it personally. He'd thought she was asleep when he came home. I couldn't bring children into that world, Minho, Amara said, her voice breaking just slightly. I couldn't watch them grow up thinking violence was normal, that fear was love, that power was worth more than people. So you ran. I survived. You took them from me. I saved them from you. The words should have hurt, but they didn't. Because deep down he knew she was right. Minho leaned back, his throat tight. What are their names? Amara softened. Just a little. Zara and Amina. He repeated the names silently, letting them settle in his chest. Zara, Amina, his daughters. Do they ask about me? He asked quietly. They ask about their father, Amara said. I told them he's far away, that he loves them, but can't be with them right now. You lied. I protected them. Minho's hands trembled. He pressed them flat against the table to stop it. I want to meet them, he said. Properly. Amara hesitated. Minho, I'm not asking Amara. They're my daughters. I have a right. Rights? Her voice sharpened. You live in a world where people disappear for crossing you, where loyalty is bought with fear, where your enemies would use them as leverage the second they found out. You think you have rights? I can protect them. From everyone but yourself. The accusation hung in the air. Minho's voice dropped to a whisper. I would never hurt them. Not intentionally, Amara said softly. But your world will. She stood, slinging her bag over her shoulder. I didn't come back to hurt you, Minho. I came back because they deserve to know where they come from. But I won't let them be collateral damage in your war. Then what do you want from me? She looked at him one last time. I want you to prove you're more than the king of the underworld. And if I can't, she smiled sadly, then we'll disappear again. You won't get far. I got 5 years. And with that, she walked out. Minho sat alone in the cafe, surrounded by warmth and light and normalcy. And for the first time in his life, he didn't know how to win. He could have stopped her. One word to his men, and Amara would never leave the city again. He could have her watched, followed, controlled. But he didn't. Because somewhere beneath the empire and the violence and the crown of fear, there was still a man who remembered what it felt like to love her. And that man knew she was right. So instead, Minho did something he hadn't done in years. He waited. Days passed. Then a week. No calls. No messages. Just silence. His organization buzzed with tension. Yuna demanded answers. His father's oldest allies whispered about weakness. Enemies circled like wolves sensing blood. But Minho didn't care. For the first time in his life, the Empire felt smaller than the weight of 2 little girls he'd only seen once. Then, on the 8th day, his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered immediately. Minho. Amara's voice. He closed his eyes, relief flooding through him. I'm listening. Saturday, the park near the river, 10 a.m. We'll be there. Both of them? Yes. His heart clenched. Will you tell them who I am? A pause. Not yet, but I'll introduce you as someone important. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. I'll be there. Minho? Yeah? Don't bring your world with you. The line went dead. Saturday morning arrived cold and bright. Minho stood at the edge of the park, hands in his coat pockets, watching families scatter across the grass. Children chased each other. Parents pushed swings. Dogs barked joyfully. It was a world he'd forgotten existed. He spotted them near the pond. Amara sat on a bench, her face tilted toward the sun. Zara and Amina crouched by the water's edge, tossing breadcrumbs to a cluster of ducks. They looked so small, so fragile, so completely unaware of the man watching them from the shadows. Minho's chest tightened. He'd faced enemy syndicates, survived assassination attempts, built an empire from ash and blood. But walking toward his daughters felt like the most dangerous thing he'd ever done. Amara saw him first. She stood slowly, her expression unreadable. Minho stopped a few feet away, his eyes locked on the twins. "Zara? Amina?" Amara called gently. The girls turned. And once again, Minho saw himself staring back. Zara, the one in pink, smiled immediately, bright and open. Amina, quieter, more cautious, just watched. "Girls, this is someone Mommy knows," Amara said carefully. "His name is Minho." Zara waved, the same innocent wave from the party. "Hi, Minho." He swallowed hard. "Hi, Zara." Her eyes widened. "You know my name. Your mom told me." Amina stepped closer to Amara, her small hand gripping her mother's jeans. "Are you Mommy's friend?" she asked softly. Minho knelt down, bringing himself to their eye level. "I used to be," he said quietly. "A long time ago." Zara tilted her head, studying him. "You look sad." The observation hit him like a blade. "Do I?" She nodded seriously. "Like the prince in the story Mommy reads us. He's alone in a big castle." Minho glanced up at Amara. She looked away. "Maybe I am a little sad," Minho admitted. "Why?" Zara asked. "Because I missed 5 years of your life. Because I didn't know you existed. Because I don't know how to be anything other than what I am." But he couldn't say any of that. So instead, he smiled, small, uncertain. "Because I haven't fed ducks in a very long time." Zara's face lit up. "You can help us." She grabbed his hand without hesitation. Minho froze. Her tiny fingers wrapped around his palm, soft, warm, trusting. He'd held guns in this hand, signed death warrants, built walls so high nothing could reach him. And now, a 5-year-old girl was pulling him toward a pond, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Amina followed more slowly, still cautious. Amara stayed on the bench, watching. For the next hour, Minho fed ducks. He listened to Zara chatter about her favorite cartoons. He watched Amina carefully organize breadcrumbs into perfect piles before tossing them. He learned that Zara loved pink and wanted to be a dancer, that Amina liked books and drew pictures of stars. And for the first time in years, the world felt quiet. Not empty, just peaceful. Eventually, the twins ran off to chase butterflies. Minho stood beside Amara, both of them watching in silence. "They like you," she said softly. "They don't know me." "They don't know what you've done," Amara corrected. "But they know what they feel. Kids are good at that." Minho's voice dropped. "I don't know how to do this, Amara." "Do what?" "Be this." She looked at him. "A father?" He nodded. Amara sighed. "You think I knew how to be a mother? I was terrified. Still am most days. But you're good at it. Because I chose them over everything else," she said quietly. "Over fear, over pride, over you." The last 2 words stung. But they were true. "I can't just walk away from my world," Minho said. "I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to build a new one. You don't understand what that would mean. Then help me understand." He turned to face her fully. "If I step back, people will see it as weakness. Rivals will move. Allies will question. The empire I built will crack. And when it does, everyone I've ever wronged will come for me. And they won't just come for me, Amara. They'll come for anyone I care about. Then protect us," she said simply. "How?" "The same way you've protected everything else you've built. With strategy, with power. But this time," she paused, her eyes searching his. "Do it for the right reasons." Before he could answer, Zara came running back, breathless and laughing. "Minho, Minho, look!" She held up a tiny yellow flower she'd picked. "It's for you," she said, beaming. Minho took it carefully, like it was made of glass. "Thank you, Zara." She grinned, then ran off again. Minho stared at the flower in his palm. A gift, Not given out of fear or obligation. Just given. Because she wanted to. Amara's voice was soft beside him. They don't need a king, Minho. They need a father. He looked at her, and for the first time, he wasn't sure which one he knew how to be. But he knew which one he wanted to try. The flower sat on Minho's desk for 3 days. Wilted now, brown at the edges. But he couldn't throw it away. It was the first gift anyone had given him in years that didn't come with strings attached. No favors owed. No loyalty bought. Just a yellow flower from a little girl who didn't know he was a monster. He stared at it now, surrounded by reports of territory disputes and intercepted communications. His empire demanded attention. Decisions needed making. Blood needed spilling. But all he could think about was the way Zara had smiled when she handed it to him. His phone buzzed. Amara's name lit up the screen. His heart jumped before he could stop it. He answered immediately. "Is everything okay?" "We're fine," she said quickly. The girls keep asking about you." Something warm spread through his chest. "What do they say?" "Zara wants to know when the sad prince is coming back to feed ducks. Amina drew you a picture." Minho closed his eyes. "She drew me a picture? Of stars. She said you looked like you needed more light." His throat tightened. A 5-year-old child he barely knew thought he needed more light. And she wasn't wrong. "Can I see them again?" he asked quietly. Amara hesitated. "Minho, we need to talk about what happens next." "I know. This can't just be park visits and flowers. If you want to be in their lives, really be in their lives, things have to change. What do you want me to do?" "I want you to be honest with me," she said. "Are you willing to walk away from the life you've built?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Walk away from the empire, the power, the fear, the only identity he'd known for over a decade. "I don't know if I can," he admitted. "Then I need to protect them from the fallout when your world comes crashing down. It won't. It always does, Minho. Men like you don't get happy endings. They get bullets and betrayal and unmarked graves. I'm not like other men." "That's what they all say." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Amara sighed. "There's a recital next Friday, Zara's dance class. She's been practicing for weeks." Minho sat up straighter. "You want me to come?" She asked if you would. His chest tightened. "She asked for me?" "She said the sad prince should see her dance. That it might make him happy." Minho pressed his palm against his eyes, overwhelmed by an emotion he couldn't name. "I'll be there," he said hoarsely. "No guards, Minho. No phones. No business. Just you. I promise." "And Minho?" "Yeah? Don't make promises you can't keep. Not to them." The line went dead. The week crawled by. Minho attended meetings he didn't care about. Signed orders he barely read. His second-in-command noticed the shift. His enemies sensed distraction. And Yuna finally cornered him in his office. "Who is she?" she demanded. Minho didn't look up from his desk. "Who?" "The woman from the party. The one with the children." "No one. Don't lie to me." He finally met her eyes. Cold. Flat. "We're not married yet, Yuna. My past isn't your business." "Your past is walking around with 2 little girls who look exactly like you," she snapped. "That makes it my business. That makes it the family's business." Minho stood slowly. The temperature in the room dropped. "Careful," he said quietly. Yuna didn't flinch. "Your father won't tolerate this kind of scandal. Not when the merger depends on—" "I don't care about the merger." She blinked. "What?" "You heard me. Minho, this alliance is worth billions. It secures the family's future. You can't just—" "I can do whatever I want," he interrupted, his voice deadly calm. "I built this empire. Not my father, not the family, me. And if I decide to burn it all down, no one can stop me." Yuna stared at him like she was seeing a stranger. "You've changed," she whispered. "No," Minho said quietly. "I'm just remembering who I was before I became this." He walked past her without another word. Friday arrived. Minho stood outside the small community theater, dressed in a simple black sweater and jeans. No guards, no weapons. Just a man trying to be normal. Inside, parents filled folding chairs. Children peeked from behind curtains, giggling nervously. The air smelled like hairspray and excitement. He spotted Amara in the third row. She saw him, nodded toward the empty seat beside her. Minho sat down, his heart pounding harder than it ever had in a firefight. "She's sixth," Amara whispered. "Pink tutu." "Where's Amina?" "Backstage." She wanted to help Zara get ready. The lights dimmed. Music started. One by one, little girls pirouetted onto the stage in clouds of tulle and innocence. And then Zara appeared. Pink tutu, hair in careful braids, face glowing with concentration. She looked so small under the lights, so fragile, so completely heartbreakingly beautiful. Minho's breath caught. She danced. Not perfectly. She stumbled once. Her arms weren't quite synchronized. But she beamed the entire time, lost in the music and the moment and the pure joy of being 5 years old, with dreams bigger than the world. And when she finished, she scanned the audience, looking for him. Their eyes met. Minho smiled. A real smile. Not the practiced mask he wore for business. Not the cold expression that made men fear him. Just a smile. Zara's face lit up like he'd given her the world. She waved. He waved back. And something inside him, something he thought had died years ago, came back to life. Amara's hand found his in the darkness. She squeezed once. A silent acknowledgement of something they both felt but couldn't say. After the recital, Zara ran straight to him, still in her tutu, breathless and glowing. "Did you see me? Did you?" Minho knelt down. "I saw everything. You were amazing. I didn't fall. You were perfect." She threw her arms around his neck. The hug lasted 3 seconds. But Minho felt it in every cell of his body. Amina appeared beside them, shyer, holding a folded piece of paper. "I made this for you," she said softly. Minho took it carefully. A drawing. Stars scattered across a dark sky, and in the center, a single figure. Him, surrounded by light. "So you're not alone anymore," Amina whispered. Minho couldn't speak. He just pulled both girls close, his arms around them, his face buried in their hair. And for the first time in his life, he understood what people meant when they said something was worth dying for. Because these 2 small hearts beating against his chest, this was worth anything. Amara watched from a few feet away, tears streaming silently down her face. Later, after the girls fell asleep in the car, Amara and Minho stood in the parking lot under flickering streetlights. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Thank you for letting me. They love you already. You know that, right?" Minho's voice cracked. "I don't deserve it." "Maybe not," Amara said gently. "But they're giving it to you anyway. That's what love is. It's not about deserving. It's about choosing. Then I choose them. What about your world? I'll figure it out." "Minho, I'll figure it out," he repeated, stronger this time. "Because losing them, that's not an option." Amara searched his face. Then, slowly, she stepped closer. Close enough that he could smell her perfume. Close enough to remember every moment they'd ever shared. "Don't break their hearts," she whispered. "I won't. Don't break mine again either." His hand lifted, cupping her face gently. "I'm sorry," he said, "for everything I put you through. For becoming someone you had to run from. Are you still that person?" "I don't know," he admitted, "but I want to be better. For them. For you." Amara closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. "Then prove it." And for the first time in 5 years, Minho kissed her. Soft, gentle, full of apology and hope, and the fragile possibility of a future neither of them thought they could have. When they pulled apart, Amara was crying. "This is dangerous, Minho. I know. Your enemies will use us against you. Then I'll eliminate my enemies. And your family? Your father? I don't care. Yuna? The engagement is over. Amara's eyes widened. Minho, that will start a war. He smiled. A dark, dangerous smile. Then let it start. The war started 3 days later. Minho's father summoned him to the family estate. A sprawling mansion built on blood money and buried secrets. Minho had grown up in these halls, learning that power mattered more than love, that fear was currency, that mercy was weakness. He'd believed it once. Now, walking through the marble corridors toward his father's study, he felt nothing but contempt for the empire built on broken people. His father sat behind a massive oak desk, flanked by 3 of the family's most loyal enforcers. Gray-haired, stone-faced, a king who'd ruled through violence for 40 years. Sit, he commanded. Minho remained standing. His father's eyes narrowed. You've embarrassed this family. I ended an engagement. That's not embarrassment. That's honesty. Honesty? His father's voice dripped with disgust. You jeopardized a $1 billion alliance because of a woman and 2 bastard children. Minho's hands clenched into fists. Call them that again, he said quietly, and I'll forget you're my father. The room went silent. No one spoke to the old Don that way. No one. His father stood slowly, rage simmering beneath his controlled exterior. You think you're untouchable because you built the Western Territories? Because men fear your name? You exist because I allowed it. Everything you have, I gave you. You gave me nothing, Minho shot back. You taught me to kill, to manipulate, to treat people like assets. That's not a gift. That's a curse. That curse made you rich, powerful. It made me empty, his father scoffed. And now what? You'll throw it all away for a woman who ran from you? For children who've existed for 5 years without you? Yes. The word rang out like a gunshot. His father's expression darkened. Then you're a fool. Maybe, Minho said. But I'd rather be a fool with a family than a king with nothing. You think you can just walk away? This life doesn't let go, Minho. You know that. Then I'll make it. His father leaned forward, palms flat on the desk. If you pursue this, you'll lose everything. Your position, your territory, your protection. And when your enemies come, and they will come, you'll have nothing to fight them with. I'll have something worth fighting for. His father's jaw tightened. You're weak. No, Minho said quietly. I'm finally strong enough to admit what matters. He turned to leave. Minho. He stopped, hand on the door. If you walk out that door, you're no longer my son. Minho looked back over his shoulder. I stopped being your son the day I realized I didn't want to become you. And he left. The retaliation was swift. Minho's assets were frozen. His allies turned their backs. Key lieutenants were offered promotions to betray him. His territory was carved up like meat. Within a week, the empire he'd built was fracturing. His second-in-command came to him in the middle of the night. Boss, we have to respond. If we don't strike back, they'll think you're weak. Minho sat in his penthouse, staring at the city that no longer felt like his kingdom. No, he said simply. No? Boss, they're dismantling everything. I know. Then we fight. No. His second-in-command stared at him, disbelief written across his face. What happened to you? He whispered. Minho smiled sadly. I remembered what I was fighting for, and it wasn't this. So you're just giving up? I'm choosing something better. The man shook his head. You're going to get yourself killed. Maybe, Minho said, but at least I'll die for the right reasons. Amara found out about the collapse through a news report. Crime lord Kang Minho's empire crumbles amid family dispute. She called him immediately, panic in her voice. Minho, what's happening? The news. I'm handling it, he said calmly. Handling it? They're saying you've lost everything. I haven't lost everything. Your father disowned you. Your allies abandoned you. Your enemies are circling. How is that not losing everything? Because I still have you, he said quietly. And I have them. Amara went silent. Minho. I meant what I said, Amara. I choose them. I choose you. Whatever happens next, I'll face it. But I won't go back to being the man I was. They'll kill you. Then I'll die knowing I tried to be something more. That's not good enough. Her voice cracked. The girls need you alive, not martyred. Then help me, he said. Help me build something new. Something that doesn't require blood to stand. How? I don't know yet, he admitted. But I can't do it alone. Amara closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. This is insane. I know. We could all die. I know. But you're doing it anyway. I'm doing it anyway. She laughed through her tears. A broken, disbelieving sound. You're either the bravest man I've ever known or the most reckless. Probably both. A pause. Then softly. The girls asked about you today. What did they say? Zara wanted to know if the sad prince found his happy ending yet. Minho's throat tightened. What did you tell her? I said he's working on it. Am I? Amara's voice was barely a whisper. I think you might be. That night, Minho made a decision. He called a meeting with his remaining loyalists, 5 men, the only ones who hadn't sold him out when his father turned against him. I'm leaving the organization, he told them. Shock rippled through the room. Boss, you can't. I can. And I am. He looked at each of them. I'm offering you a choice. Come with me and help me build something legitimate, or stay and serve my father. I won't hold it against you either way. One by one, they chose. 3 stayed, 2 left. It was enough. What do we do now? One of them asked. Minho pulled out a folder. Plans he'd been drafting for weeks. Legitimate businesses. Security consulting. Private protection for people who actually needed it. We go clean, he said. We take everything we know about this world and use it to protect people from it. That's actually brilliant. It's also dangerous, Minho warned. My father won't forgive this. Our old enemies will see us as weak. We'll be targets for a long time. So nothing changes except we get to sleep at night. Minho smiled. Exactly. They got to work. 2 weeks later, Amara brought the girls to his new office. Not a penthouse, not a fortress. Just a small, clean space in a building downtown. Legitimate, legal, safe. Zara ran in first, eyes wide with curiosity. Is this where you work now? It is. It's smaller than the castle. Minho knelt down. Castles are cold, Zara. I wanted somewhere warm. She considered this seriously. That's smart. Amina walked in slower, holding Amara's hand. But when she saw Minho, she let go and walked to him, holding out another drawing. This one showed 3 figures holding hands under a bright sun. That's you, me, and Zara, she explained. And Mommy's taking the picture. Minho's eyes burned. It's perfect, he whispered. Amara watched from the doorway, her heart full and breaking at the same time. So, she said softly, what happens now? Minho stood, looking at the 3 of them. His family. Not the one he was born into. The one he chose. Now, he said, we build something better. And for the first time in his life, Minho believed in tomorrow. 3 months later, Minho's new life had a rhythm. Wake up at dawn. Coffee. Review security contracts. Lunch with Amara and the girls twice a week. Evening walks in the park where he first held Zara's hand. It was quiet, normal, and terrifying in its simplicity. Because every day he waited for the other shoe to drop. For his father's retaliation. For old enemies to find him vulnerable. For the world he'd left behind to drag him back down. But the days turned into weeks. And the weeks turned into something that almost felt like peace. Almost. He was in his office when the call came. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. But instinct, the kind forged in a life where one missed call could mean death, made him pick up. Minho. The voice on the other end was cold, familiar. His father. You've been quiet, the old man said. I've been busy. Building your little redemption project. Something like that. A pause. Then, you think you can outrun what you are? I'm not running, Minho said calmly. I'm choosing a different path. There is no different path. This life, our life, it's in your blood. You can pretend to be something else, but eventually you'll remember who you really are. I already know who I am. Do you? His father's voice turned sharp. Because the man I raised would never abandon his empire for sentimentality. Then you don't know me at all. Silence stretched between them. Then his father spoke again, quieter this time. She's making you weak. She's making me human. Same thing. Minho's jaw tightened. Why are you calling? To give you one last chance. Come back. Marry Yuna. Reclaim your position. And I'll forget this embarrassment ever happened. No. Think about what you're giving up. I'm not giving up anything, Minho interrupted. I'm gaining everything that actually matters. You're going to regret this. Maybe, Minho said, but at least it'll be my choice. He hung up. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from the realization that for the first time in his life, he'd stood up to the man who'd shaped him into a weapon, and survived. That evening he picked up Zara and Amina from school. It had become his favorite part of the day. Watching them run toward him, backpacks bouncing, faces glowing with the uncomplicated joy only children possess. Minho! Minho! Zara crashed into him, wrapping her arms around his waist. Guess what? What? I got a gold star in reading. That's amazing. Amina appeared beside them, quieter as always, but smiling. I got one too, she said shyly. Minho crouched down, pulling them both close. I'm so proud of you. Zara pulled back, studying his face with that uncanny perception children sometimes have. You look sad again, she said. I'm not sad. Then why do you look like the prince before he finds the princess? Minho glanced over their heads. Amara stood a few feet away, watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Maybe, he said softly. The prince is still figuring out if he deserves the princess. That's silly, Zara declared. Of course he does. How do you know? Because the princess wouldn't love him if he didn't. Out of the mouths of children. Minho stood, taking each girl's hand. Come on, let's get ice cream. Mommy said we have to eat dinner first. Mommy's not here right now. Yes, I am, Amara said, stepping closer with a raised eyebrow. Minho grinned. Then Mommy can have ice cream too. She tried to look stern. Failed. You're a terrible influence. I know. But she took his free hand anyway. And together, the four of them, they walked down the street like any normal family. No guards, no fear, no empire. Just people choosing each other. Later that night, after the girls were asleep, Minho and Amara sat on her apartment balcony. The city hummed below them. Distant sirens, car horns, the chaotic symphony of life moving forward. My father called today, Minho said quietly. Amara tensed. What did he want? Me back. And? I said no. She looked at him, searching his face. Do you regret it? Not even a little. What about when things get hard? When money gets tight? When you miss the power? I won't. How can you be sure? Minho turned to face her fully. Because I spent 10 years building an empire that meant nothing. And 3 months building a life that means everything. Amara's eyes glistened. You've changed so much. You gave me a reason to. The girls. Not just them, he interrupted gently. You. She looked away. Minho, I never stopped loving you, Amara. Even when you were gone. Even when I convinced myself I didn't care. You were always there. In every decision. Every regret. I thought you hated me for leaving. I tried to. He admitted. But I couldn't. Because you were right to go. You saw what I was becoming before I did. And now? Now I want to be the man you thought I could be. Amara's voice broke. What if you can't? Then I'll die trying." She laughed through her tears. "You're so dramatic. I learned from the best." She shoved him lightly. He caught her hand, and slowly, carefully, he pulled her closer. "I'm not the same man I was," he whispered. "But I'm not done becoming who I want to be either. So I'm asking you." He took a breath. "Will you give me another chance? Not for what we were, for what we could be." Amara looked at him for a long moment. At the man who'd destroyed empires, who'd walked away from power for 2 little girls, who looked at her like she was the only thing holding him to the light. "On one condition," she said. "Anything. No more secrets, no more walls. If we do this, if we try again, I need all of you. Not just the parts you think are safe to show. Even the broken parts, especially those." Minho nodded slowly. "Deal." And he kissed her. Not like the first time, desperate and apologetic. This was different. This was a promise, a beginning, a choice to build something new from the ashes of who they used to be. When they finally pulled apart, Amara was smiling. "The girls are going to be impossible when they find out," she said. "Find out what?" "Oh, that their sad prince finally got his happy ending." Minho laughed. "Is that what this is?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but I think we're going to find out together." 6 months later, the new security firm was thriving. Legitimate clients, clean money. Minho's reputation, both the fear it inspired and the skills that earned it, translated surprisingly well into private protection. He wasn't rich anymore, not like before, but he was free. And more importantly, he was home for dinner every night. Zara had started calling him Daddy 3 months ago. Amina took longer, cautious, careful, always watching before she leaped. But last week, she'd crawled into his lap while he was reading reports and fallen asleep there. And when he tried to move her to bed, she'd tightened her little arms around his neck and whispered, "Don't go, Daddy." He'd cried. Right there in the living room, holding his daughter, letting 5 years of grief and guilt and missed moments wash over him. Amara had found him like that. She didn't say anything, just sat beside him and held his hand. Now, standing in the small house they'd moved into together, nothing like the penthouse, but full of warmth and laughter and life, Minho watched his daughters chase each other through the backyard. Amara stepped up beside him, slipping her hand into his. "Do you miss it?" she asked. "The power, the empire." Minho thought about it, really thought about it. Then he looked at Zara, showing Amina how to do a cartwheel, at the sound of their laughter, at the way the evening sun caught in Amara's hair, at this small, imperfect, beautiful life they'd built. "No," he said simply. "I don't miss it at all." Amara smiled. "Good answer. It's the truth. I know." She leaned her head against his shoulder, and together they stood there, watching their daughters play. No guards, no fear, no empire, just family, the only kingdom that mattered. But peace never lasts forever, because 3,000 miles away, in a dark office overlooking a different city, a man picked up a phone. "I found him," he said. A pause. "And the family?" "Wife, 2 daughters." "Perfect." The line went dead. And in the shadows, old debts began to call, because Minho had walked away from his empire, but his empire hadn't forgotten him. End of episode 1. Did you feel that ending? Because Minho thought he was safe. He thought choosing love would be enough. But what happens when the ghosts of his past come for the only thing he can't afford to lose? Part 2 is loaded with twists that will break you. Comment Part 2 below so you don't miss what happens next. And if you're not subscribed yet, fix that now. Because when his enemies discover his daughters exist, everything he sacrificed will be tested. Subscribe. Comment Part 2 and buckle up. This story is just getting started.